Good eve. Start that again, Christ.
I think it's
So
live.
always off to a good start.
That bit.
I mean, what I've done is, because I've been on John's show recently, where I know he has to redo the intro a number of times.
Yeah. Okay, stop there.
So, good evening, everybody. For those in the UK, at least, and good afternoon or good morning, wherever else you are. Welcome to this week's episode of Among Us. Jesus Christ, it's not going well, is it? Because I've got Among Us on the screen in front of us. Welcome to this evening's episode of Azureish Afterdark, where we'll be playing Among Us with Paul DeCarlo, along with our wonderful, or at least 4/5 of our wonderful hosting team, of myself, Liam Gulliver, our newest addition, John Lunn, as well as our regulars, Pete Gallagher and Jonathan Relf. Pete, you've invited Paul to be on the show. Would you like to give him a bit of an intro?
Well, I'll let him introduce himself. But yes, this is the fabulous Paul DeCarlo over there, sitting in. Are you in Austin? I think, is that where you are?
Houston.
Houston. That's it.
Close.
There we are. It's close. Very close. Yeah. Yes, it's in Texas. Yeah.
Big place. Yes. Yeah, I'm out in Houston, Texas. I work by day as I guess they call us cloud developer advocates for Microsoft. Have a really big interest in the Internet of Things, and I don't know. I've been having quite a lot of fun being on a lot of these different live streams. Oftentimes brought in by none other than Mr. Pete Gallagher, who seems to just know everybody on the internet. He's the cool guy. So I'm just the guy that tags along.
Yeah.
Well, I got it. I was known as, who's this guy who's retweeting everything the Microsoft IoT team are doing? And then it just went from there, I think, basically. I think it's stalking. Really. I think it probably comes down to that. But
we didn't see it that way. It brought a tear to my eye when I would see that one single solitary heart next to that blog post that I probably had poured 32 hours into.
Yeah, yet if you tweet a one-liner with a GIF, 600 likes. You know.
That's right.
That's the way it works.
It is, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is. Yeah, but as Paul says, he's an cloud advocate, primarily in the IoT space. And yeah, I guess you've been doing that for quite a while now, Paul. It's not a new thing for you.
Yeah, so when my career started out here at Microsoft, we had an even more epic title, which and some people get mad when you say that it's the same job, but they used to call us technology evangelists.
Oh yeah,
was you felt like you were like a pope or something with that title. And we've watered it down now to cloud advocate. I think some people don't. That some people say, "Oh, the advocacy is different," and it is in some minor ways. I do remember, and I don't know if this was just from being new to Microsoft 8 years ago, but like the product groups didn't want to talk to me back then. But nowadays, usually I get invited to their meetings and know what they're working on and things like that, and then that helps me communicate back out to our wider audiences, if you will. What is coming out the pipe, and traditionally in a a way that can help people build stuff for tomorrow with the technology that is coming out very, very soon is typically the way to look at it.
Yeah, and I mean, there's all sorts of different ways that you use social media for outreach and stuff, and obviously there's the tech community blog that's quite popular there as well, and then what you do on LinkedIn and Twitter and your own blog that you've got and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, has that role changed, do you think, those since that title change, or do you find yourself?
Then, I wouldn't say that aspect that you just laid out there has changed per se. Meaning, like, are we still reaching developers where they are? Whether that's a social media platform, first-party blogs, and that sort of thing. We're still certainly doing that. The thing I think that changed for me is that you spend a lot of time in a company like this, and of course the role matures, the company continues to mature, and dare I say I matured a little bit, where there's travel to places I would have never thought that. Even talking with all you fine folks, which I know primarily based in the UK. I mean, these are things that you have to understand from a small kid like myself that grew up in a small state called Louisiana. You may have heard of it. Some of these places that we go to do these things, I just never really imagined. And it's something I think, at least in the role today, seems to be commonplace, but maybe wasn't commonplace 8 years ago, like the vast travel. And as you know now, there is no travel. So things have gone full circle back in my own,
So how's that changed your last year then? Have you been doing more different things to reach people?
So it's really interesting. I like it, but I could see why some people wouldn't. And the reason, and I don't think it's actually affected us too much in terms of what our scale is and our ability to effectively drive impact in the ways we're doing. So the reason I would say that is in this fully online world, you end up in this situation where the playing field is kind of leveled because everybody has to play in the online world. So if you're having an online event simply by being there or being one of the people that's a contributor to it, you are already playing at the field level of something that may not have been fair or even permissible given some folks, because let's be honest here, not every developer is going to get access to get on a plane to go to conference XYZ and stay in a hotel and give a presentation that may be paid for, right, through sponsorship. I'm being completely honest here. With the online avenue, it's really interesting because I think what you'll see is, you can either roll over in this time period and say, hey, I'm going to wait until I can get back out there, which, surprise, that might not come for longer than we think. And the other thing is, I think it's really activated folks out there that might not traditionally have the title of a tech evangelist or a cloud advocate, where they can actually start being those things in some capacities. And if you can prove that out, I would say, again, going back to this field being level now, you could in some ways make the case that, you too are an evangelist in your own right. And whatever that is that you want to talk about, you don't have to be playing for the Microsoft team, whatever technology it is, you're now playing at the same level as everybody else, with minus maybe advertising dollars that we're using to get things boosted on platforms, here and there. But I think that's empowering when you look at it that way.
I think you're absolutely right. Like it's. I mean, let's take our show here, for example. We're not throwing money into it. We're not sponsored in any way, though. If folks are watching who'd like to, we're open to it. But it's something that we've grown organically since, when did we start this? Like October last year, I think it was, with our various shows. And now we've got 5 different shows on the channel. We've got folks who appear who are known in the community already. And we've got an abundance of guests throughout. So and it's all stuff that we've done by putting the effort in that we wouldn't otherwise been able to have done if we were out doing hour-long commutes each way every day, or being in the office as well and doing those things, because we've got the energy to do it because we're home.
And we wouldn't have asked the question before, but now, as you say, with a level playing field, we're more open to saying, well, why not ask?
Yeah. If you don't ask, you don't get, do you?
So I'm curious, would you all say that the Azureish brand is a consequence of being stuck at home for the last few months?
Yeah, I'd say that's the easiest way to look at it. I mean, we always had an idea of wanting to do some kind of show. So at least Pete, Jonathan, and I, we've also got a podcast that we do with a couple of other folks, and we wanted to do some level of video content. But the amount of time that I'm sure everybody knows that can take is long, to say the very least. And then we started talking about it more and more through the course of the pandemic over the last year. And then one day we just decided to go for it. We figured a name out. We put together what we wanted the shows to look like, and just went for it. And here we are, a few months later, still cracking out content. And it's really rewarding. I mean, I guess to a point, we probably don't really care if anybody watches, in the sense of it's kind of, something that we're creating together. Because we don't work together day to day, we all work for different companies. It gives us an opportunity to be able to build something together, because we all know each other from in the before time, like in-person meetups and that kind of thing.
But I suppose the other bit that we've been interested in is the fact that with a live event, you don't have to do as much prep. I mean, obviously there is prep, but in that sense, it's you fire and forget and you go for it. But the other thing is, it's been great to actually realize just how much enthusiasm there's out there for people like yourself wanting to come on and talk about the cool stuff that you get to do in your day job. So in that sense, it's been rewarding to realize that we can benefit from hearing directly from people and feeding off their passions and interests as well. And so it's great to hear about the kind of stuff that you're up to. So what kind of things is keeping you like excited and interested in your sphere at the moment?
Well, it's a lot. Some of the big things that we've been doing, in fact, Pete was a part of this recently, was, and it's kind of in the same, trying to keep to the same theme here, was we were looking at running an online event that we could actually like kind of train people, if you will, and also make aware of some of the I guess, services, solutions that exist out there in the realm of IoT, as well as the learning resources that are available specifically to get you certified on what we call our Azure 220 IoT developer certification. And you would think, like, again, going back to that, like the hour-long commute, yes, it's like, if I was to be on an airplane and coming back and thinking like, how am I going to get people around the world interested in something like an Azure certification, that's going to be pretty hard. Whereas, because how do you scale that type of messaging? Whereas what Pete kind of laid out almost initially from talking to him, and it was just a natural flow. I've been on numerous user groups that Pete runs, and we've done live shows together, even back on the Microsoft front. So, I mean, we're daily chat buddies at this point. And so you make one friend across the pond in the UK, and sure enough, as you know, Pete's very, very connected. Pete has a lot of friends. Yeah. So it became really clear that there's a possibility that we could take this presentation content that we had initially sort of created for ourselves and for someone to just take and use as they please. And Pete sort of pointed out, I've got a bunch of friends I think that would be interested in this. And then we stamped that out to 3 time zones. So there was a Asia Pacific series of this event, and was called the All Around Azure IoT Developer's Guide to the Internet of Things. It was offered in the Asia Pacific time zone, the Americas, which would include, North America, Canada, South America, all that, and the Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So the whole world, really, if you think about it, with three of those things. And what I guess was interesting about that is, if you had asked me in my job, or even told me that, like, hey, next year there's going to be no travel, but somehow you're going to have to, put on something that has global impact. Impossible to think of. But you look at the way technology enables this kind of things now, and it's actually really, it's par for the course at this point. We do it every day. Your kids do it every day if they're enrolled in school. And so we took some of those same ideas essentially and just created what would look like, I guess, almost like a virtual conference. And Pete can probably give some more details into how this all went together, but the thing is, it would not have been easy to do this. I didn't have friends at the scale that I do in EMEA before, Europe, Middle East, Africa, before COVID. And because of this forcing function, again, of leveling the playing field, the only way to meet is in virtual hallways now. That was possible. And because of that, we combined minds from 2 other time zones, and now you get this really crazy synergistic effect. So let Pete kind of go into that.
I had a question first. Because of that, has it made your job easier in a lot of respects then? Because obviously advocacy is your job and outreach is your job. And now outreach is theoretically easier as long as you've got the right contacts, as you said.
It was an opportunity that had to be discovered. So it's not like it was easy from day one. It was one of those things where it's like, adapting to the situation and figuring out the current strategy made you realize that, wow, the things you can get done now and the way you would have had to have accomplished that before is actually, it's easier now. Because think about it, it's like what Liam was saying. If Liam was on a 1 hour, trip back and forth from work today, his likelihood of wanting to do anything else after that diminishes.
Mm-hmm.
It just, I mean, I'm that way. Like, and I do that, especially if it's travel. I like to throw the day away, sometimes the next 2 days away. Like, sorry, I was in, South Africa, so I'm not talking to anybody for 3 days while my biometry or whatever readjusts. And now those things aren't happening, but at the same time, and again, it's like I was saying, you could roll over and say, well, we just won't talk to anybody. we just won't talk to people in those places because they're not. But the reality is, I can be on a freaking UK podcast or UK live stream right now, this moment. And here's the other wild thing about that. Are any of us outside of our normal time zones right now in terms of how we're like, is anybody jet lagged on this conversation?
No.
No.
Exactly. And that's the point, is that previously either all of y'all would have to come here or I would have to go there. And I promise you, if it was me going there, I probably wouldn't be too happy at whatever hour y'all are awake. Okay. It's just the way I am.
Unless I give you a beer, it might be all right then. Unless it was,
You might put me to sleep. That's the problem.
Yeah, well, there is that. Are you seeing from the management level, so from your direct managers, are you seeing a difference in targets you've got to hit, or the way the targets have worked out now that your reach is effectively wider, or potentially visibly wider now?
I pray they don't figure that out.
Yeah, I hope they're not watching then, yeah.
Like, yeah, so now you can be in Europe every day. Which wouldn't be a bad thing, and arguably is kind of true if you count the BMs, Pete, that you and I have going on every day. I mean, there is always a conversation happening across the ocean. But
we can make that easier for you, Paul. We can just get you on our Slack.
Not another one. Is it going to increase the target? I don't know. I don't know about that, Pete. Because this year, for a lot of things, so we operate. We don't operate according to hard metrics. We operate according to themes, if you will. It's probably the easiest way to say it. Which we call objective key results, where you do work that's supposed to lead you towards something. But we don't really. We're not telling you have to get X amount in order to call yourself successful. You try a thing that leads towards the result. Inversion of control for metrics, if you will. Mm-hmm. And what I would guess here is that this year had to have been a learning phase really for everybody. Even your upper man. I mean, think like Satya when he got the news. Like, I mean, what do you do when everything gets shut down? And I mean, working for a company that is a large cloud host, that didn't spell doomsday for us. It's kind of like, oh, everybody's going to be more connected than ever before. Y'all rolled out Teams, and got it mature at just the right time.
Right? Sure, yeah.
I mean, let's be honest here, like right in the nick of time. And you have this situation where there's an unprecedented demand now for 24-hour uptime of services and things like that. And being on a position with a company where that's like that is the number one right now. I mean, this Microsoft is a devices and services company. So outside of manufacturing hardware like Xboxes and say Surface laptops, the whole other side of that business is basically cloud hosted services. I mean, for the most part. And that's interesting because everything changes. And now your management is kind of saying like, there's going to be increased demand no matter what happens. There's going to be challenges though, because we don't know how our customers are going to react. We don't know if company XYZ is going to be in business to be able to afford, whatever the technological services that are enabled by the cloud are. We don't know that. So I think there was a big learning phase, and I can only throw my opinion here and say, I like to think that Microsoft, at some level that's abstracted very far away from me, is employing people that are way smarter than any of us can imagine, that know how to solve. I'm pretty sure we have epidemiologists and stuff like that, like on the payroll, literally saying like, "Here's how you react to this."
Yeah.
And they will know when the best time would be to do, as you've. I know this has been such a long-winded answer, to increase, say, well, now that we know that our scale is infinite everywhere and at any time, let's make our goals infinite. I don't know about that, but what the year has felt like so far, especially in the first 6 months, was a lot of searching, and I think we were lenient in that search for some folks, and especially the team I run. We never rolled over. Literally never. In fact, if there was ever a time to really truly take a break, it would have been like July, I think, was the start of the Microsoft fiscal. And my team, we just ran a whole, you'll love this pun, the July IoT month of internet stuff. And this is important. I mean, this is something I've really, and I should stop talking at some point. I'd like y'all to break this down a little more. But what we realized was there were some people that were, and some people, let's be quite honest, needed to take the time to search. We searched by doing, and we never stopped. And so because of that, we found ourselves in a situation where a lot of success that can be driven in this COVID-19 world, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying about, the field is level at this point in time. A lot of that is a result of whether you're doing something or whether you're doing more than you ever did before, and hopefully in a healthy way. I don't want to cross into the chasm of people losing sleep and stuff like that. That certainly occurred at the beginning of COVID, but it almost turned into, you could make excuses or you could start trying things, and they didn't have to be right. You just had to be doing something. And what we found out was that I don't think that the challenges that many of us assumed were ahead of us were nearly as bad as maybe they were. And of course, might be inserting my foot in my mouth with that, depending on what type of business you're in. But working for a cloud host, you just had to try. I
think you're right. Like, I think there's an element that can kind of forced our hand a little bit to accelerate plans that we might even not have fully formed yet, to be able to cope with the demand that there is now on cloud systems now, whether that's Microsoft on Azure itself, or on your own business's systems that you might be hosting in Azure or AWS or wherever. But there's been so much shift, and I remember it's less. I think personally, it's less frequent now. But there was a period last year where every other day was different. You didn't know what was going to happen, and you had to adapt there and then. And it gives you scope and I guess confidence in the fact that now a lot of businesses can try out a hypothesis and say, actually, does this work? Are we in a place where we can, if it doesn't go right, can we back it out properly? And it's changed a lot of thinking. There's a big push for wanting to do more DevOps type work as well, and change company cultures to be able to have that ability to adapt quickly and work in a way that is safe for everybody, not just in terms of physically with COVID and everything else, but for people's well-being.
I got a question on that note, Liam. When you say around, if we take Microsoft, we know you said it then, Paul, how much that accelerated Teams deployments for customers, we can kind of measure that with metrics. Can you relate any specific thing in the IoT world to kind of an increased demand purely because of COVID? We were talking about the fact that all of us have more time now to come on and do these kind of streaming sessions. In the IoT world, has there been anything specifically that you could kind of relate directly to the pandemic?
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the things that you see here is, and actually Liam said it really elegantly, this whole, I'll change the way you said it just a little bit. It's almost like,
Good, because I feel like I talk nonsense most of the time. So
it's like you said, like you could either quit or you could try a hypothesis, right? And so what we're seeing now, we're seeing a lot of different ingenuity, I guess, if you will, start to appear, particularly in the IoT space. Some of the more, like, I guess, obvious types of solutions that you're seeing now is things that are enabling safe return to work scenarios, either by means of maybe having smart buildings that can do things like check what the capacity is of people. They're applying maybe things like artificial intelligence, computer vision to count, how many people are in a room. This has gone all the way down to whether they're maintaining distance from each other and can provide, like, think about that electronic notification that you've got people in your hallway that are standing too close to each other. It's accelerating things on the fronts of hospital capacity systems. Most certainly got tested with some of this. And when you think about the resiliency that, say, redundant deployments and things like that can be that you get from cloud services in general, were not only tested, they were proven in this point in time. So you're having these hypotheses that are going out there that are getting proven faster than ever before, is what I would argue. And it's at a time when who knows how we'll look back on this. Maybe this will be the start of another great awakening or something like that.
I was having a conversation recently, and I think the way I said it was, it's brought forward and definitely accelerated the next kind of industrial revolution, I think, because we're having to change so drastically the way that we work that I don't think that I should hope, at least, that the lessons that we've learned from this don't end up being a thing that do you remember that time when we had a pandemic and we had to all work from home? I'd like to see it be more of a lasting thing. Our learnings, that just to be clear, the learnings from it, not the pandemic.
But I mean, look at the last 10 years. We were often in the DevOps space talking about how Netflix's Simian Army was an amazing radical concept of how you should disaster test your own infrastructure, and everybody praised it, and nobody had the guts to do it. And then a pandemic came along, and everyone realized that they needed to test that fire drill or test that how do we manage with a cloud only solution. And it's, in that sense, it's been the making of many people's business continuity plans.
Did we want to play Among Us?
I was going to say, I hate to interject, but it might be worth us starting the game, and we can carry on and talking as we go. Are you in a position to play now, Paul?
Yes, I am.
Cool. Okay, so in the bottom right as well, you'll have a little globe that you want to change to Europe.
After you've clicked the online button, of course.
Okay.
Yep.
It is taking over my main monitor, so if I look like I'm looking over here, I've switched my...
That's cool.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everyone will just be watching Lee and being sus anyway, so it's fine.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
exactly. Whilst we're kind of at it, speaking of games and Microsoft on Xbox, recently I had a package from Xbox arrive.
Yeah, you lucky man.
I won a Twitch competition a little while ago, and it was like way back before Christmas. So I had this box arrive that on the side was telling me it was an air fryer for a start. I opened it up, and inside was an Xbox Series X, along with a Cyberpunk controller and this delightful Johnny Silverhand robotic arm replica, which is fantastic. I just need to find somewhere to put it in my office now, because what keeps happening, speaking of all these meetings and Teams and everything, is I keep leaving it on my desk and just sort of fiddle with it. And then if people haven't been in a meeting with me over like the last week or whatever, they're like, well, what have you got in your hands? Why have you got a robot arm?
Just scratch your head with it in a meeting.
Yeah.
Well,
So
exactly.
was that a surprise, or were you
I
expecting
was kind of expecting it at some point, but I like they said, here we'll send you tracking info and stuff like that, and I never got any, and it just sort of arrived at the weekend.
Didn't they say they're not shipping more until June or something? I heard that yesterday.
Is that what it
like-
is? Oh,
Yeah.
come on.
I am unfortunately one of the people that everybody hates because I've got both the PlayStation 5 and the Series X.
But the thing, maybe they put it in an air fry box to avoid it being lost in courier in
That is
transit,
also true.
given the scarcity of them at the moment.
Which one's better? And you can be honest.
At the moment, the PlayStation 5.
Cool.
And that is because the exclusive games are a lot better.
Yeah. They got some. PlayStation's a powerhouse for games, man.
Yeah. Like I picked it up with Spider-Man Miles Morales, and I'd completed it in like 2 days. It was so good.
So, gentlemen, I have selected the Europe globe. I think I'm ready to play with y'all.
So
But I do need help. I don't fully know this. What I do know is I'm the type of person that would spoiler alert and go, it says I'm the killer. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
firstly, not that.
It's all right. He goes quiet when he's the imposter. It's fine. It's
It
obvious.
does. Yeah.
So we'll talk you through the first sort of round or so as we go. But basically, what we do is you'll have a set of tasks to do. If you're not an imposter, you'll have some tasks to do in terms of going around the ship, and you'll go to these areas, and there'll be little yellow highlighted areas that you click on, and you do the tasks. If you're the imposter, you'll have fake tasks to go and do, but ultimately, your objective is to go around, kill everybody, and not get ejected from the ship.
Okay, so the people who are not the killer do not kill.
That's correct.
They
One
just try and
killer.
do the task. If everyone manages to do the tasks before the imposters wiped the crew out, then the crew wins.
Aha! Now it makes sense. Okay.
So, Pete, the code for the room is in Slack. If you want to join and send it to Paul as well.
Where have you put it? The AZ channel one.
Yes.
You can fling it over to me on Twitter, probably.
Yep.
I will do that right now.
We are our best channel.
Yeah. That's my direct line to Paul.
And likewise.
I'm
It's
amazed
like
that it's not been blocked. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly.
It's so funny because here I am being on Twitter for, 10 years, and I'm like, what's this feature where you can IM each other?
Yeah, I've used that a lot lately.
He's the only person who's ever used it with me. I didn't even know it existed until then.
That's good, because if you get a message, you know it's me. So,
yeah. So, okay, so once you've got that, Paul, there'll be, I think you go into, is it online, and then there'll be a bit at the bottom for private, and you put a code in.
Okay, for private. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
And what we'll do is, once we've got the 5 of us in, we'll open it up for the general public to join, and we'll try and get to 10. And as part of that, we'll also put the code into our Twitch chat, so our viewers can join us. But we just need to get all 5 of us in first. At the end of each game, you'll get the option to quit or replay. We'll play a few rounds, so just click replay and you'll join straight back in.
Oh no! It says I was disconnected from the server for some strange reason.
Give it a couple of attempts because Among Us is so popular. It's really, really busy.
I see.
Unless we're into the realms of ping lag.
Yeah, it says reliable packet was not active after 7,000.
That's the usual error of trying to connect.
There's literally 3 people, and I think they've just hired a social media manager now. So there's 4 of them developing this game. The latest updates about the fact that there's a new airplane map coming out soon, which is very exciting.
Oh, the airship, yeah.
The airship, and not least because after a meeting, you actually get the chance to congregate in a different place.
That's true.
which is interesting. So you can hide from each other. But they were saying that whilst they've been working with contractors to, people that are experts in hosting, because clearly they've just had this massive demand at the end of 2020 when everyone was just going, "This is great."
Do we know where they're running it from?
Do you know? I'm
Don't know,
not
actually.
sure.
I hope
You
this
mean as
isn't
in-
because
His
I'm in the
bedroom,
United
his bedroom.
States. Is this my speed of light lagging between here and the pond?
Let's give it a moment, and we'll see what happens. We can always change to
can always
use
change
the
to the
US
US.
servers, can't we?
Yeah, US might work better because it's daytime in the US, so there's
I
going to
hope
be
it
less
doesn't
people on the US
come to
servers.
that, but
That
okay.
is true. I mean,
Might be-
in terms of all you need to do is change it to United States, where you
That's
picked
easy.
Europe earlier.
Okay.
Should we just do that?
Yeah, go on then. Let's do
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're going to leave, and then so where that globe was, if you select the US server instead,
North America.
obviously. Yep. And then
Okay.
Liam will give us another code.
Okay.
I
So we're
shall.
switching to US because I'm the bottleneck. Got it.
Well, we're the bottleneck, actually. Yeah, I think this is what we'll find. Right, let's copy that across.
That's got to be me. I'm not on a landline right now. I'm on a Wi-Fi, so that's.
You should be okay with that. I mean, as long as it's all right. I mean, the call quality seems to be fine.
Oh, hey, there we are.
Yeah, there you are.
Perfect. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Cool. So that's all 5 of us. Folks who
free
are
to use the
watching at home. Well, I hope you're watching it at home.
If you're watching in black and
Based
white,
on the previous conversation. If you would like to join us on the North American server, the code is in Twitch chat right now. And if I've opened it up to the public, so if you're quick, you can get in. If not, we're going to use the same room throughout. And once we get to 10 people.
Well, you look a little naked, so feel free to use the computer and dress yourself up.
Computer. Okay, that's how you do
like
that.
a little
Okay.
laptop.
Yeah.
Yep. And then just click the use button when you're near it.
Is there a purpose to this? Does this help you win? How you dress?
no, not at
No,
all.
not at all.
It's just funny, especially Jonathan's loo roll on his head.
Yeah.
I'll be.
So last year,
I'm gonna be that dressed like that. The infamous Viking. There we go.
I like it. Fantastic. We did have a guest there who promptly left, I think. After that.
if you don't,
saw the
people
naked
get
Paul, and then
people get very, very twitchy on public games, and if you've not started within 4 seconds, they're off.
Yeah. But it only usually takes a couple of minutes for us to get a full set of folks, and away we go.
We haven't persuaded Shabazz to join us then.
The couple of things just to point out, I guess, for Paul's benefit and the folks watching, really. So we've set it so that we'll only have one imposter. We'll have we'll talk about the voting bit in a little while when that first happens. And we've got something called visual tasks as well, but we've turned those off, so you won't be able to tell if somebody's faking tasks or not. Because some tasks have a visual cue to something happening.
Oh, cool. We've got anonymous votes on as well. Excellent.
And we have anonymous votes on as well.
So we don't know who's voting for who. Great. Okay.
awesome.
6 people.
Well,
Are we waiting for all 10? Or
I'm going to click start.
Yep.
I think. Let's do it with 6, and then we'll go from there. If someone else joins, it resets the counter anyway.
Yeah,
So let's
cool.
let's
you
start.
do
with
also
6.
need to laugh at Liam when he can't swipe his card. There's a
Don't know what you
particular
mean.
task he needs to swipe a card.
Don't know what you mean.
So where you're starting, there's an emergency button here. If you see somebody doing something that looks like they're an imposter now, the main one is that there's vents in the corner of the room.
I did it first time, Pete. Screw
often.
you.
Did you? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, aren't you lucky? But if you see someone disappearing down a vent, that means that they're probably the imposter, and you can absolutely then come and press that emergency button. But nearly always what's going to happen is that you're going to spot a dead body, and then you have to report it. This is basically a kid's game at the end of the day.
Hey,
it's pretty...
What are you calling a kids game?
I'm a big kid. I'm probably the biggest kid, isn't it?
How do you complete a task? You just stand in the room?
So you go.
When you go in a
go to a
room,
room.
something. Oh, God.
Yeah, so when you go to a room, there'll be like a
Yellow glow.
glow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you click on the yellow glow.
You go near it and click the use button in the corner. And then you've got to try and work out what you've got to do.
Oh, okay. It's like Wario.
Yeah.
Whatever. WarioWare. Okay, I guess. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, closer. Yeah, that's probably the closest approximation. Who's closed all the doors though?
Yeah.
So when we do have I might just have disappeared from our OBS Ninja call, by the way, because I was using my phone as a second webcam, and it has just died.
You're on your head.
You've gone sideways, Liam. Yeah.
Oh, they killed Pete.
Yeah, somebody killed me.
Oh,
I'm not happy about
Quiet, Pete.
Yeah, I'm not telling you who, but I've been found, so I'm allowed to say I'm dead now.
That's the first time somebody's actually stuck up for me. Look in chat. Purple is
Well,
safe.
it's me, but I've got a plan,
Oh,
and it's the next time I'm going to blame you.
oh, it is you. Yeah, blue.
So obviously, at this point, we get to vote who you think has murdered people. Murderers.
Yeah, so you just click on somebody to vote, or you can skip the vote to who you think might be the imposter.
When you're dead, you turn into a ghost, and you can still go around and complete tasks
Yes.
as a ghost and try and save the crew. What you can't do though is if the imposter does something, like you saw everything go red, and you had to go and fix the oxygen, or if he locks doors, I can't help with that if I'm dead. That's the only thing I can't do.
You got to vote for someone, Paul.
What if I don't want to?
You can
skip
skip at the
vote.
bottom left. Because if you don't have enough information, then skipping is open to you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, there we go.
Oh, the timing
But with
was
anonymous
perfect.
voting, someone giving me a vote, cheeky devils.
No one was ejected. Skipped.
So why didn't they kick out the one person who was voted for?
Because it has to be a
'cause Skip had
majority.
most.
Yeah.
Ah,
Right.
So, what's the next event that's coming up, Paul? Certainly for IoT. Have you got anything on the horizon?
well,
You can tell us about
things
that.
are being discussed, but I think the next big event, the one that I certainly know is going on, is that in March there will be an Ignite
Oh,
event.
of course. Yeah, there is that. There's that one big event that's coming up there.
Yeah.
What's Ignite? For what's Ignite? I know nothing about Ignite. I don't know. Never heard of it.
Nice try, Pete.
Okay. Yeah. But there may be people listening that haven't heard of Ignite. So do tell us what Ignite is, Paul.
So Ignite is one of those first-party Microsoft events, kind of like Build. And if you haven't heard of that, it's really one of the larger scale events where we kind of make announcements about new products, show you new features and things for perhaps existing ones. So it's kind of the way to really like see the direction or the vision roadmap, if you will, of where Microsoft technologies are going, typically in the next 6 months or so. And this one's special because Ignite is normally an event that's held in the fall. And this year, we, in 2020, never mind. I'm a ghost.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I just saw somebody vent in Medbay, but I didn't catch who it was.
Ooh.
I don't know who got me, by the way, but
Good. Yeah, you wouldn't tell us anyway, even if you did.
Okay. So it is a event where we sort of lay out kind of the pathway, if you will, or the direction Microsoft's going. And what's different about it, like I said, we normally have it in the fall. And I guess this is probably because of COVID. We actually are having a spring edition. So normally Ignite would not happen in March. But
I was going to say it seemed really soon compared to the last one.
yeah, and that's my guess, is that it has to do with the virtual event format and stuff like that. What I do know is they're smaller, and they're not normally as intense as the former in-person events were, and that's because we found there is such thing as what we call event fatigue and stuff like that, where people essentially, don't want to sit through a whole week's worth of presentations.
So green is sus.
Green is definitely sus if they're saying purple's safe.
Yeah,
Liam,
yeah.
Hello.
if we put the code back into the chat, because we've got a different code now, is that back in the chat now?
Crikey. Yes, I did. Yeah.
Oh, good. That's fine. Yeah, good. Yep.
But the nice thing, I guess, about those events being online now is you can always join us from wherever. And I think I'd have to check, but I know in the past, for the previous one that we held in September, we held them in various different time zones. So each session was actually delivered 3 times in APAC, EMEA, and America's subsidiaries. So no matter where you are, you can attend.
Sounds familiar as well. That I mean, I don't know how much of the email that you sent around about AAA IoT is public and how much of it's private, but certainly one of the things you alluded to in that email was that this is almost a template, a blueprint for events like Ignite. And vice versa. We took, obviously, this happened annoyingly for us MVPs. It happened exactly when MVP Summit was supposed to happen. Now, it was like 2 weeks or something in between when everything was locked down and when MVP Summit happened, and Microsoft managed to pull off probably their first virtual event in that time. And I'd never been to an MVP Summit before, so I've got no idea what the difference is. I'm hoping I'll get to one year.
1 year, yeah.
I'll just have to keep doing all the stuff I'm doing, which I'm happy to do. But then we've seen the progression. It's been really interesting to watch the progression of these online events. And Build was awesome to watch. Build, that was done in the same sort of idea where it was effectively on 24 hours a day, and you could pick these sessions up, and often they weren't pre-recorded sessions. Satya specifically and the team specifically wanted them to be live so that it humanized the whole event, and that way of doing things was fantastic. And they played on that, even where after the keynote they zoomed out and he was in his pajamas, I think, with his slippers on, and he walked off stage like that. But those little touches, and some people actually complained about the fact that it was too humanized, and I thought that was a ridiculous thing to moan about. I liked that. It made it easier. It felt like you could connect better with the people that were speaking to you, and the stories became more believable and things
but
like that.
For me, the other thing that whole thing highlights, and certainly Paul says, with the frequency of now, it feels like it was only a few months that the last one was on, is just, it reminds you just how much content there is coming out of Microsoft that's worth talking about. It's just, it's given the fact that everyone's going through a pandemic, it's quite impressive.
Oh, definitely agree with that. It's kind of like a way, I guess, to keep people, I don't know, in the loop with what's going on. And I'm super excited because I can't say much, but
yeah,
there's going to be an IoT announcement of a thing. they're going to release the Internet of Thing.
We're going to look forward to that thing announcement.
Yeah, there will be a thing. That's all I can say.
Speaking of new stuff, I don't know, Paul, you probably, you're on more on the IoT end of things, but kind of just a question to the floor, really. What do we reckon to the announced this week Azure Quantum?
Very interesting.
So I did see there's they actually have a really nice video now about that for emergency meeting.
Mm-hmm. So there'll be a chat. If you've not seen it, there's a little chat icon, and sometimes people will type into that.
Well, it's currently just us 5 because I think the other 3 left the game. So, okay. Jonathan, why are you?
It's so Paul. Literally just saw him pop in and out of event. I mean, it's a nice button to try, but not next to 2 people in electrical.
Let's go with.
So that's an early lesson.
So when we talk about the quantum stuff, I don't know. Because I'm not an expert in that field. That's
you get to vote, by the way, Paul. Just to cut you off,
you
get to
right.
vote. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Let's see. I'm sorry, I was stuck.
That's all right.
Chat.
Overwhelming, I would say that result is.
But it's not me. I promise you. Wait a minute. I was the imposter?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I like
So
that.
when we
Comedy,
click go,
comedy
it'll
gold.
tell you if you're a crewmate or the imposter.
So wait, how could you tell?
I'm
It
so
says at the start,
I'm so happy that I'm laughing at somebody else because this was me when I started playing. What am I doing?
So the difference is, Paul, that the imposter gets access to a network of underground tunnels that the rest of the players don't.
And you saw me jumping. I thought I was doing a task.
Alas, no.
It's easily
rather
done.
suspicious task. The first time I played this, my first question when I was imposter was, "So what do you do when you're an imposter?" And I was voting.
Yeah. That's.
You're the imposter.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard to work out what you're doing play wise when you've also got folks who will vote you straight away.
Oh look, we're going to get a full round. This game. I mean, the more people, the better, because otherwise it just becomes a little bit too easy.
There you go.
And someone left because we didn't start fast enough.
Start the game. The
I guess quantum stuff though always gets me excited because I don't know. It'd be really interesting if SHA-256 can get broken if we get up to 256 qubits.
Yeah, I mean, but have you seen the amount of storage space that would potentially take as well? I think I was reading somewhere that you're looking at kind of exabytes of storage for 256 qubits. I mean, to be fair, I think that there's a lot about quantum computing that I just don't understand, and and there's a lot of people that are smarter than me for it. But the amount of storage required for it, I just can't wrap my head around how it all will all hang together, or how to go from what we have today with let's call it traditional computing and software engineering to be able to do the same thing with something like Azure Quantum in writing in Q#.
It's a storage account, Liam. They just ever
storage
account in Azure. Yeah, there's no limit. Just sign one up. Primary key, you're in.
Oddly, John, your mic is a little bit jittery. Normally, it's me that it's got like.
You are glitching a little, yes.
Am I glitchy?
It sounds more like your internet than your microphone.
Yeah, it's that Welsh internet that you've got.
Oh, you have to fix the crisis before you can hold the meeting?
Yeah, so when you're an imposter, you can sabotage systems as well. And you can win by basically suffocating everybody or blowing up the ship.
One of the things I saw, which I don't know. Hello.
Oh.
What news?
Hi, start the game. Yeah.
No, that's the guy that left.
Yep. Oh yeah. I saw Orange kill somebody. He says.
Oh, there you go.
What did you see? You get describe the gore.
Yeah. I'll go with. I'll happily vote Orange.
Yeah. In 5
5
seconds. Yeah.
I'll tell you what I am doing, by the way, as a complete tangent. So on the stream today, I've obviously got no background behind me. I'm not doing it with a green screen either. I'm using NVIDIA broadcast to do it on an RTX card, and it's really good.
Mm. Yeah, you are making me jealous with that RTX based machine that you've got there.
It's don't worry, I didn't also get a 3000 series RTX card. I'm still running an RTX 2080.
The imposter left.
And also, they were the imposter.
They were.
That's it. Yeah. Yep. Happy days. We did very well there.
Yeah, somebody was talking about machine learning though as well with quantum, and the idea that at the moment we have to spend energy and time training models, and effectively, one of the interesting things, if I was paraphrasing this article correctly, was that you can start to move towards that being on the fly rather than having to be pre-compiled.
Whoa.
Which is pretty nuts as a concept.
Yeah, I can't quite wrap my head around that. I mean, speaking of the machine learning side of things, Paul, are the boxes behind you Jetson boxes?
Yeah.
They just happen to be green?
Yes, they are. It's all of them. I got the whole family. I got the box for the Xavier down there. Yeah, the Nano. There we go. Pete's got one. It's the 2 gig kit. The Nano NX. This thing's awesome. That's the power of a Xavier and the form factor of a Nano. It's super cool.
Yeah, John, the chips down here, John, you say you go buy stuff because you see me buying stuff. And then Carl Segura, I forget how you pronounce his last name, he's been doing the same thing. I go and give talks on IoT and I end up buying stuff. But I watched, when I first met Paul, I watched him do a talk, I think, and I was asking him what he had in behind there, and he talked about these Jetsons. And then I went and bought stuff because I saw that Paul had it. And I think it was a demo of Jetson that you were doing, actually, when I saw you. Perhaps machine learning stuff, and yeah, it absolutely does. It's catching. Certainly, IoT seems to be more like that than a lot of the other specialities.
Well, you've got.
We didn't really talk about that much, did we? How I kind of serve two masters in some way, some respects. There's a lot of crossover. The work I do is a lot of partnership work with NVIDIA.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Which has been, I honestly never. Considered myself worthy or whatever. It was a bizarre, I was so, I don't know, the only time I ever really truly, I shouldn't say only time, the most recent time I truly felt imposter syndrome was hanging out with the NVIDIA folks for the first time at Ignite. The last time it was in person. So I was like, hey guys, I'm doing all this stuff with your stuff. Do you want to hear about it? And I don't know, it was hard to get their attention at first. And now we have bi-weekly meetings. Every 2 weeks I get to meet with them, which is really awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. Awesome. And the certifications and stuff that you've passed, and and you're doing stuff with the University of Houston as well, I think, aren't you?
Yeah. In fact, I guess the thing I like the most about it is it was the first time that I realized that small form. Pete, it was you.
I failed. I pressed the wrong button.
Bye, Pete.
To kill somebody. I popped out of the vent to kill somebody, and I pressed sabotage instead of kill, and then they ran off and reported me.
I want to say it was 2 or 3 years ago. I was on a project where we were doing something with GPUs and video, object detection algorithms.
Don't forget to click play again, Paul.
Large scale in the cloud, and I got my hands on one of those TX2 devices. Actually, Microsoft never bought me one. It was up to me to buy it, and I never did. But I was on a project where we were developing for one, and I thought that device was the most fascinating thing. Just getting to see it in action, whoa, that thing's super small. And knowing the stuff that I was doing on server-sized hardware, it's hanging in there. That was the moment the light switch turned on, and it's how do I explain it? Realize that artificial intelligence of things is capable of being done in a small form factor, which means you can do it anywhere. That was powerful.
It's interesting with the physical computing is that Pete and I both volunteer for Code Club, and one of the things with that was introduced a few years ago was the microbit, and obviously that there's something tangible about getting hardware into kids' hands for them to understand the learning of, and so the whole IoT thing and physical computing revolution is the bit that I think has been missing for the last 10 odd years, where everyone's just had a shiny console that they've never looked inside of to understand how it works. So more we can expose learning opportunities by having those kind of little gadgets, the better.
So, I mean, I guess my kind of follow-up question to that is, so obviously I see Pete playing with stuff all the time. I see John doing it. I know we've had conversations between us, and obviously Paul, your day job involves a lot of IoT, but a lot of the stuff that we tend to see around, say, on Twitter or at meetups are quick little tech demos to do things. Or let's make these lights blink, or let's build this robot arm. But what kind of practical production application is this? What you'd expect it? I guess my question is, what kind of production scenario could you use it in?
Oh, absolutely. So the easiest way to think about this, and this is what I teach in my college course, is first we introduce them to the concept of computer vision algorithms and how you can do object detection, which is object is seen in these coordinates of an image, literally draw a bounding box. And that's actually gotten to the point you can now do depth detection. Come on, y'all.
Oh, it wasn't Paul.
Oh, we fell for it.
Christ.
So yeah.
But the concept is, once you realize, like, okay, those types of models, honestly, like, not knocking data scientists, but sometimes I think they've been gatekeeping on us for a while. Look, we don't need to know how the algorithm works. It's actually not important. I would argue that all day long. Just that it does, and what is the inputs that are required to make it do something useful, which in the case of computer vision is expose it to images of the object that you would like to detect. And so if you reduce it to just that, right, like that's the capability, you now democratize that anyone who's capable of obtaining a training sample set for a given thing that they'd like to detect, whatever that is, an anomaly, people, pets, whatever it is, you end up in a scenario where you can build a whole variety or host of solutions built on that concept. And the only thing you need to do to make it happen is literally be able to demonstrate that you can aggregate the samples in order to create that. So what gets real interesting there is that if you reduce it to that, right, like if I give you enough samples, images, I can detect XYZ, it opens up the possibility for a number of different solutions. For example, just brainstorming here, imagine a traffic light that actually looks to see if there really and truly are cars in the intersection to change its lights. And as such, it could then increase throughput of traffic because it's not responding on a timer anymore. It's literally looking at what it sees. Or what if you have a pet like a cat and, we got Johnny.
Yeah, I think it's the first time I've seen him be the imposter and win as well.
That is the first time I've actually done anything. I killed whoever I killed right in front of John as well, and I only just saw him there.
Literally, I saw you skirting away, and then I was like, "Oh, it's a head-to-head trying to persuade Liam to not kick me out."
It's John.
So if you imagine, like, let's just use a cat for the example right now. Like, how many products could you make with a small form factor IoT device to enhance the cat's life? So things you would sell at the pet store. One, a smart door that only opens for the cat and not anybody else. So now you can let the cat in and out on will and not have to be woken up at 5 a.m. speaking from experience.
Do you know what, Paul? I was speaking to my other half about that the other night, and I said I could build a device with cognitive services and facial recognition because we keep getting this ginger cat coming in the kitchen and scaring the dog. Honestly. So when is that product being released?
I've seen that done. That's a long time ago. I saw that done actually.
Right, is it right? So I need the GitHub repo for that one, and the component list, please. I can get it to run on a Pico Pi, yeah.
No, funnily enough.
One of the other things
I made it.
too is like knowing when to feed the cat, right? Like if you know the cat's standing at the bowl or whatever, it's probably hungry. I mean, there's very simple things here. It's simply knowing where something is, or maybe you lose your cat all the time and you want to know if it's like, I don't know, in a certain room or something like that. That can be determined. All of these things.
Yeah, it's amazing how that computer vision's come on so much because I remember seeing one person's hack where they invented a long tunnel and shone a sidelight and actually were using silhouettes to work out whether it was their cat or not, rather than now, of course.
Well, I know there's you're looking at building your own kind of smart doorbell as well, aren't you, Jonathan?
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. It was interesting, Paul, talking about some of the home automation implications, and turning a light off and on in terms of an LED is a very easy way to start with input-output pins. But getting smart homes now controlled by your IoT devices is definitely something to move on to.
Well, and this stuff works. It's proven. There are two very successful commercial AI applications. One is obviously the Alexa, the Amazon device, which I'm sure, is that a thing in the UK?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Sorry to anybody who's watching who's just been set off as well.
I got my headphones on. What you'll have? Behind me.
Say it again.
Set alarm for 3 a.m.
But yeah, that would be number one, and then number two would be we have the Ring doorbells that now have this fantastic feature of only alerting when it sees a person. So the way the device first came out was kind of interesting. It would just use the motion sensor, so it would go off all the damn time, which in combination with my Alexa, my dog has a Pavlovian response to where if he hears the Alexa say that motion was detected at the front door, in fact, I could fool him right now if y'all really want to hear it, he will go on a barking rampage. So the fact that they've applied computer vision to it now, it's actually extremely accurate. When he goes off, there actually probably is someone outside the door. So it justifies his response now, which, I don't know, you just think about it. That's amazing. He likes it too. He doesn't have to go off as much. So
that is pretty cool. I mean, I think that's the thing. Like the what we don't tend to see is those kind of practical examples. It's always, here's a quick demo of a thing that you could do with it at home, but I guess it's then, well, how do I translate that into a job or into a career as a skill? And I think, Pete, you're working on a show for the channel to show this kind of thing, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah, actually, I was wondering how long it'd take you to bring that up.
I'm always working towards something, Pete. Don't worry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's something that I've spoken to people about before, and there just doesn't appear to be solution-based information out there for very much, actually. I mean, IoT is just a really good example of that because of sort of the nature of the fact that it's sort of split up and there's lots of services involved. So we tend to be sort of the epitome of that. So that was what I wanted to try and get some content out there for not necessarily real-world applications, but just a solution, so a problem that you actually want to solve.
Not just hello world. Yeah,
well, not even that though, because you can do hello world for all the different bits, but not join the dots back up together.
Yeah.
So it's that sort of that's what I wanted to do. So I mean, in a week or so, a week tomorrow, I think actually we'll have our first show with Benjamin Carbe. So that's one of Paul's not teammates to a degree. So you're on different teams, aren't you? But in the same sphere nonetheless. And if you don't know Benjamin, then go and follow him on Twitter. It's I think it's, what is he, Ben Carbe, I think. On Twitter.
He's got a cool demo out right now too. I think
that's what we're going to do. It's that, funnily enough, is build that. So go ahead. Yeah.
Do we want to ruin that? What that is? You want to keep that a surprise, or?
Oh no. Well, we can. So this is a LoRaWAN gateway, and I've bought a couple of LoRaWAN devices. This one is a temperature and humidity sensor, which is the standard IoT Hello World demo. But I didn't want to just do that. So I've got a motion sensor as well. It's difficult with overexposing the things, but that's got a passive infrared sensor on that as well. And I mean, they're not mega cheap, but it was like 160 quid or something for these three together. So they're not mega cheap, but there's a prepackaged solution that you just buy, and they look nice as well. I was surprised how nice these actually look. But Benjamin has made, as Paul said, a fantastic demo, and he's even used Blender at the end of it. So a 3D design package, an open source free 3D design package to visualize IoT data. So this is one of those solution-based things that I wanted to see more of. And it's great to see that. And I know Benjamin put a lot of effort into that, and he's got blog posts and videos for that. But obviously he can only fit in so much into that.
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt, but you also need to vote.
Oh, well, I'm busy talking. So, but obviously, there's only so much time in a presentation type hour-long thing. Geez. Well,
it was Pete. Like it was Pete.
But there's only enough time in that 1 hour presentation format to go into enough detail. So we're going to split that up into several Twitch streams, most likely, and build that solution and show people how to go and buy something like this off the shelf and make something that's quite practical. And I mean, I'm going to install this in my office as an intruder system, essentially. That's what.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm hoping to get to do. We're probably not going to build that, but That's what I'm going to do.
To answer Liam's question earlier about how this can be translated though into work skills, the one interesting thing about IoT devices is they're a rich source of big data, and in many ways, the sort of power that you've got with IoT Hub and event streaming and all the other things that are cool in Microsoft's cloud for processing large amounts of data. Well, it's a bit more personal if you're actually collecting your own data rather than, often we were pointed in 5 years ago to always just tap into Twitter's streaming API. That's not necessarily a great use case. Whereas if you've got a load of temperature sensors or stuff in your own home that you want to start to actually infer stuff that you want to turn off the heating at certain times or whatever, then big data is something that I think also is quite an interesting angle of IoT.
Yeah, that is. I mean, there's so many different applications for it, I think, and that is kind of what I was getting at. There's so many different demos out there. I think what would be really good to see from a demo perspective is from that conception to building something to actual real world use, and go from there. Folks, we are actually at time. It's been a very easy to get lost in the conversation this evening. It's been great. So thank you so much for coming on, Paul. I think we probably need to wrap up there, because I imagine for you, Paul, it's also the middle of your working day.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
It's just going to pop open his Teams and realise he's got 600 messages he needs to catch up on now.
But yeah, like, once again, Paul, this has been really great. You're absolutely welcome back anytime. Hopefully, we'll see you on Pete's show as well, which I think is being called IoT, but T is in the drink.
Yeah, I've got with IoT Live as well to follow your Azureish Live, but also I think there was already an IoT Twitter account. So. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's amazing. Hey, I'm curious. How many people out there were watching us?
We've had a consistent sort of between 9 and 12 throughout. And then what we'll be doing after this is we're going to export it to YouTube for folks to go and subscribe. And if you're watching and you're not subscribed already, there's a bit.ly link at the bottom of the screen now that you can go to and subscribe to us there. And it'll be up there for everybody to consume, and we'll tweet it out and everything after this. And folks, if you're watching and you aren't subscribed to our channel, or following us here rather on Twitch, feel free to do so. If you're liking all the stuff we're doing across the various shows, including After Dark, Azureish Live, John's show in conversation with, Derek Weekly when that comes back, when he's back from paternity leave, and then Pete's upcoming IoT show, please consider subscribing to us on Twitch with the price that comes. And if you've got Amazon Prime, you can redeem that as your benefit as well, to help support the channel. That'd be fantastic. Thank you very much. Paul, once again, thank you so much for coming on, and obviously to my fellow hosts for making the time this evening to come join us, and obviously for the folks at home, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you again next time.
Thank you very much.